Is anybody else from San Francisco in this room? Thank you. Good to see you. I feel like a lot of people brought what they thought the city was about with them, and this isn't it, by the way. This is not what it was. But since so many people brought it with them, they made that true in all kinds of ways, and that's your city, so that's okay. Rather than starting with a poem, maybe I'll share 1960s. Morning with you. First, Noe Valley Street Fair. 2 stages, one at one end, one at the other. The one end was at Castro and 24th, and the other end was probably at Church and 24th. 2 bands. They got paid food. The Grateful Dead and the Jefferson Airplane. For years, I thought the smell of pot smoke on clothing was a cologne. Oh, also, the totally pervasive scent of unfiltered apple juice and carob. So I've written a couple of books this year. I didn't write them this year. I've had a couple of books published this year. One of them is Deer Trails, which is out there. The other one is called Murdered and Missing, which I think I won't read any of because it's really damn depressing. It's about murdered and missing Indigenous women. It's how I lost my daughter. Because this fantasy place here is also one of the top 20 places where Native women get killed. Stone. Memory spirits give me days full of words I've forgotten or never been taught. The language in my cells that won't come out, daughters of memory and patricide, I practice making their shapes with my tongue against teeth, a story of soundless singing, a meditation. I am stone. I am cracked stone. Sing softly the prayers of visibility, and for the survivors sing twice. Last breaths on the sidewalk reveal hidden poems of history, the chewed and ugly thoughts that catch on themselves, snarled, tangled, lethal. Sing prayers. Old songs of being seen, sing hope for ourselves, last breath, and the chant begins. Who is worthy? Who chose badly? Who thins the questionable, and who decides? Sew their names neatly on the quilts of story. Sing. Sing twice. Teach the songs. 5 alarm. In the radical renaming, we will call homes a 5-alarm fire. We will call a hardware store the point of ignition. We who will not move will be changed until we don't recognize, until we can't see for the smoke and the words that the fire lifts from the walls. Written there by someone else. And the names on the writhing flicker maps are a matchstick puzzle that we can barely use to warm our hands. War song. If you have dreamed of invisibility as a quiet space with no edges, if you've practiced invisibility at the supermarket and in the streets, if you built your own worlds, gradually opened the windows, added mirrors one by one, and sometimes were surprised that you cast a reflection at all, if you had to teach yourself to speak word and word in a language that excluded you and then gradually created yourself there, from each coaxed letter, from each sound invented in your moments of transparency. If you're one of the translucent, if you create worlds out of your own flesh, meditate on the pavement, fade steadily in your birth home, if you sing songs from outcast cultures, rejected identities, if you're illegal in these streets, in the toilets, in the schools, and if you still build, lay strong words that can support the weight of a person, words that can be nailed over windows. The storm is now. The other day I went over to Oakland, not in a car, but on BART, in a rainstorm to go read in a bar. This is one of the things that really only a Paul Corman Roberts could have asked me to do. I don't like being out late. I like my bed and my slippers and my jammies. But I did it. And they were single tracking Bart. And there were a lot of extremely damaged people on that train. One of whom I gave a shirt to because it was the wrong night to be out without one. And I get to Broadway and I'm walking from 19th Street, Bart, and there are 2 naked trees full of crows. And I stopped in the rainstorm to look at the crows in the trees. And this guy walked by and he was talking about how he wanted to buy Santa Rita Prison because he felt like it would be, and it was pretty scattered. And then he stopped and he went, "You!" And I said, and he went, "You think I'm crazy?" I said, "I'm standing in a rainstorm looking at 2 trees full of crows." And he went, and left me be. Another person on that trip looked at me and said, "I know you," which happens to me sometimes. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And he said, "I know you, Tom Baker. You're a Time Lord." And I thought, that may be what I'm going for with this. It wasn't conscious. So I said, "Yeah, that's me." My dad was in the Navy, and for a long time down in the Castro, near where my house is, there was a guy who would sit on the street with a Navy cap with the name of my dad's old ship on it. But because my eyes are getting bad, it took me a moment, and people don't love it when you go, it's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to read your hat." He's flaking old beer bottles into precarious leaves. The summer fog is thick and the shards click and ring and drip, an absolute June green. How long can you hold your breath? There's a dry smell in the air, sticky, bitter. How long can you dance to the rhythm of urban leaves, the foliage of walking away? Something must have moved because he wasn't there last week, and the children at Noyan Market tell their mother the city is filthy. This place is so dirty you want to go somewhere else. Well, you know what? You weren't invited. Something must have moved. We're here now in the seasonal election, postcards, amulets, pages from a book we're writing about salvation. The postcards blow down Sanchez like fall. There is no other place. There's no one but here. We're nowhere but here. I'm going to finish with this one because I told you I'd read it. This is called People. This town isn't the skyline, it's the roofline. It's the J line out in the flats and memory of playland. This town isn't the gate, it's the stairs we leapt to avoid a childhood fantasy of rising lava, the pavement under roller skates. This town is ghost orchards, piped creeks, unmarked graves, unremembered villages. This town is things in the beach sand at low tide, Fort Point in a thundering fog. This town is necking in the van behind the Conservatory of Flowers, the eucalyptus slow dripping on the windscreen, a particular coastal code. This town is people, past and present. It's the people. We're the people. Thank you so much. Thank you. Even Clark.